Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me, Una? I can
Yes,
hear you.
I can. Hi, how are you?
Christy her audio is not working, so.
Are you working to connect?
What's calling?
No, she can't. She's got slides to do.
Oh,
She'll get in. Now, when do you go to Germany?
11 days.
Oh, this will be way behind you by then. You are so cool. I'm glad you saw I just rolled with the punches and said, let it go. Come on, let's roll. Let's go.
I'm looking forward to like putting this thing to bed.
I put it to bed a while ago. In fact, she's given me, this is so sweet. She's given me 2 other assignments. And so, we're doing those. Hi, Mario. Hey, Jess.
hi.
There's Jess.
Hey, look at you guys.
Hey.
What's up,
What's going
Mario?
on, ladies and gent?
Hey,
Nice.
sir. How you been holding up down there?
Woo wee.
I know. Bless your little heart.
It's just like you put out one fire, you got another 3 alarm right behind it.
Yep.
I absolutely understand.
Oh, no rest for the weary.
You guys, if I look great, it's because my filmmaker daughter is here and she made me do this right.
You do look great.
You
You
do.
always look great, though.
Yeah, you
No,
always look great though.
she set me up, no headspace. She says I'm living in a digital age, and she came down and set my computer where it needs to be. I'm sitting in my front window looking out on my deck. This is awesome. I'm like, oh, that's why you have kids? So I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry, you guys can hear me now?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
No.
I don't know, my microphone wasn't working. I had to plug everything back in, restart my computer, join my earlier call by phone on Teams. That was a mess.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Of course today.
Yeah, I'm like, why? Could we pick a better day for this? Okay,
Wow.
let me get the slides up.
So I think Steve is supposed to join us
Okay.
and do an introduction. If not,
You're doing it.
No,
Does he doesn't have a link to join?
oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't, okay, I can send him one.
Yes, please do.
Okay,
no.
didn't know he was potentially coming.
There's Bill.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. All right.
Jessica, did you just send Bill a panelist link?
I did not, but I
Do you need me
wonder,
to log out and log in with a different link?
No, that's okay.
oh, that's okay.
Then I had a note that I was supposed to unmute you.
Consider it done.
Yeah. Done.
Good luck ever muting me again.
Yeah.
Change my name.
Hopefully, my office mate doesn't go crazy. But if he hears any little noise, especially we're in the house, he's got to protect me. So.
Oh, your office mate. I think that's adorable.
Yeah.
My whole point of coming to the office was so I could maybe have better technology, thinking my Wi-Fi at home wouldn't work or something. Yeah, so much for that. Okay, Tim, I'm making you a co-host.
Ooh.
Got
Yeah.
power.
Thrilling.
Yeah, well, he may be an office mate, but I am probably gonna have to report him to DER for unruly behavior.
Got some harassment issues going on in there.
Big time.
Some HR issues.
I missed you, Jess. I haven't seen you in too long.
No, it's been a really long time. Time flies. It's busy, man. So
I know, me too.
I know.
I'm grateful though. It's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm healthy.
Una, where are you?
I'm in Milwaukee
Okay.
because I do some consulting with Summerfest. So I'm working. I do some talent stuff with them.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, yay. I get to use the other half of my brain, Mario. For that.
Yeah.
Anyone else here? Is there anyone here yet or just us? We won't let them in.
There's two people. We don't have to let anybody in. They can just pop right in.
Oh,
Are you monitoring the chats?
I can look at the chat in the Q&A.
Okay.
Oh, good. We actually forgot
Because
to talk.
Yeah.
because I was gonna monitor them, but when you're sharing, let me see if I can do both. It messes up my screen to chat. I'll periodically look too. Yes.
Okay.
COVID is stupid.
So
Yeah.
Mario,
Yeah.
what did you think of our Navigator tool?
It look good. Look real good.
Is there any way that you can pop off that you think groups can really use it, that I can remind them?
I have to take a look at it again. I'm assuming you want to.
When you get a unheard moment, give us some pointers if you think
All
it's
right.
something. I didn't get a chance to send that to you, but that was the only thing that I would ask you guys to do is kind of say, how should we make sure they know how to use this if it's valuable to
All right.
them? I'd appreciate it.
All right. So it's noon and it looks like people are filing.
Populating.
Yeah, we'll give it another maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think I can see anybody but the panelists.
Correct. That's how it'll be.
Yeah,
We
so
have-
Jess, you'll have to mind the chat room. I won't be able to.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
I can do that.
There you go. There's your webinar logistics. Use speaker view, you change it.
I want mine up top. Let me see if I can get it to move.
Yep, looks like we have about, we'll get started in a couple minutes. For those of you who are clicking on, looks like we have people joining us now, so. So we'll get started at 12:03.
Hey, what did the janitor say when he jumped out of the closet?
Is this a joke? What?
Supplies.
Applies.
Was that supposed?
Okay, so I have a joke. How much does a chimney cost?
Oh, how much did the chimney cost?
Oh no.
It's on the house.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Little did everybody know when they came to the Consolidated Plan Navigators webinar that you'd get some jokes.
Well, I've got an excuse. I just saw you know who and you know where on Saturday night. Yatunde, hi. Oh, hi, Yatunde, my favorite person. Okay, call me later from Habitat.
We will get started in.
Nice. Hello. Hi, Leo. Hi, Amy. Nice.
All right.
Wonderful.
It looks like we're getting a critical mass.
Yay.
So oops. I am going to get started. Okay. So welcome everyone to the City of Milwaukee HUD Consolidated Plan and Navigators webinar. We are very glad that you could join us today. We are excited to be able to really present this, what I'm considering the final closeout, at least of this massive chapter that we've been working on for the last 18 months in partnership with the City of Milwaukee. So I'm going to, my name is Christy Luzar. Sorry, I'm the Executive Director at the Urban Economic Development Association, or UEDA. And I'm actually going to go to the next slide. We will go through just a few logistics. So kindly stay muted if you aren't already, and use speaker view. It's often the best way to see both the slides that we show and the speakers. You see here a list of speakers today who are going to be talking as we go through some of the things and what we've learned in this process. You can put closed captioning on and turn it on using the lower toolbar. And then please feel free to add questions, comments, feedback in the chat. We will be sharing the recording and the slides. So now I am going to hand it off to Mario Higgins from the City of Milwaukee to kind of just speak a little bit about the con plan and what we've been doing.
Well, thank you, Christy. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who participated in this process. It's been long. COVID helped extend that, but I think we learned something that whole time. I think when we first got together, especially with the task force members, we talked about trying to throw all types of stuff, everything in this plan, especially when it comes to things like natural disasters and all these other things. And lo and behold, right around the corner comes COVID. So all of those things that we put into the plan initially are things that we are dealing with right now. We keep constantly getting new federal funds, but all of that's easy for us to accept because we don't have to amend the plan because it's sort of already in there. So that was sort of our saving grace of being a little, making sure that we were being broad with how we thought about the plan and everything. So thank you to the task force members who've been there from the beginning. You guys have been great in being able to show us interest, give us ideas, and give us input on what we're doing. Obviously, thank you to Christy and her team. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we could not have done this without you. We also have some sponsors that we'd like to thank, and all those names are listed right here as well. And our data partners as well. I mean, there's a lot of people who had a lot of input who are really behind the scenes on this, but gave us a lot of valuable information in order for us to get this thing put together. The weird thing is we did it, we started 2 years ago, and all of a sudden, all of the stuff, everything is like it's almost old. So I don't think we're gonna, it's not gonna be the final, Christy. We're probably gonna have to have a pretty substantial amendment, if not this year, next
Oh no.
He lost. He's frozen.
year, almost
He'll
for
come
sure, to do that. It'll just be a little work. And everyone, if you see the surprises on their faces, because that's the first time I let them know that. So again, thank you everyone for all your participation and joining us today.
Yeah, I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that part of a substantial amendment. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear it. Okay, and as Mario alluded to, we actually put this as part of UEDA's Emerging Topics series. This is something that we've been doing the last few years where we really zero in on a specific topic in economic development and sort of highlight some work that's going on. And so this year it's all about housing, housing. So this is our second session of the series. Our first session was in July, and we talked about historic preservation and revitalization tools. And so today we are talking about the consolidated plan and these Navigator tools, which we're really excited about because we think there are great takeaways for people in the community and particularly our community-based organizations and partners that Mario talked about, who are really behind the scenes. These are going to be great tools for them, we think, to kind of continue to connect their work to these important goals. And then our third one will be on October 22nd, so stay tuned for that. And we'll focus on the citywide housing strategy. So I am now going to, so you see our sponsors there for the series, they support UEDA and this work that we do, and we couldn't do without them. And so now I'm going to ask Bill Kopka from Associated Bank to just say a few words as one of our sponsors, but also as one of our comp plan task force members.
Thanks, Christy. So y'all know UEDA is the place to be. We get a lot of fun in our interactions with UEDA, and I like to think that we work hard and play hard together. What a great convening organization for us. It's within their umbrella that we kind of move the needle in my passion space, community development. So a few things about UEDA. We've got Take Root Milwaukee that's activating city and federal partners like the FDIC, banks, realtors, and so many other stakeholders. You've got Bank on Milwaukee, which is engaging banks and nonprofits and more federal partners to innovate and provide financial literacy and affordable banking products. And when you mix this and other things UEDA does together, you can kind of see why the city of Milwaukee looked to them as the steward for the con plan. Associated Bank is proud to support and participate and learn with the peer group convened by UEDA for the con plan. And with that, short and sweet, I'll pass the baton and stay tuned so I can learn more about the final plan and Navigators.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bill. We appreciate your participation too, as well on the task force, but also in all things UEDA. So moving on, today's agenda. We are going to recap the process and we're going to do it super quick. You will see, if those of you joined us in January for our webinar when we shared the public draft, you'll recognize a lot of these slides. As I was preparing for this, I really felt it was important to keep them here because this is sort of the closeout, and that way all that information is there, and we will share these slides will be posted as well as the recording of this webinar so people can go back and kind of get all the detail. But then we're going to also do a bit of an overview of the plan itself. The final draft is posted. I am actually still working in a few things that we had to add in when we were submitting it to HUD. As Mario alluded to, there are some new sections that we had to do. Fun times. And so we're just working that final content in and making sure that everything is there, but it is posted. And then we're going to share some new tools, these Navigator tools, which I'm super excited about. From the very beginning, as I brought together this team with Tim, Scythe, Una Vandeval, and then our other consultants, Marcus White and Pa Sponsi and Jessica, on our staff, we all talked about how we thought we really needed to do what we called takeaways, like these topic focused things that really just pull out parts of the plan for people because it is an immense plan. And so that's where we're going to really focus on today. And then we'll have some opportunities for you guys to provide feedback and the Q&A and things like that. Know that this is, as the technical assistance provider, we view this as an ongoing process, even though I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that thing about the amendment. But we see these tools as a way to really continue the conversation with community members over time and talk about the goals and how our work can support it. And even though a lot of the data in it feels dated already because where we are today compared to even a year ago is so different, I will say, as we were putting together the Navigators, we have a section around COVID-19 related in each one. The goals in the plan are still so relevant to what we are seeing, particularly with the disparities in our city, and just knowing like who's experiencing the most hardship, right? And so I think the goals themselves really extend themselves to where we are today. And so I don't think some of that really changes. It just means we can be more intentional about our work. And then, as Mario also said, there are more resources and from the federal government that we have seen in a generation that really speak to these issues. So moving quickly, why a plan? And I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but the main thing is this consolidated plan is a requirement that HUD asks of their jurisdictions that receive funding. It guides the allocation of the resources, but it also can be used to seek additional federal resources. So other departments of the federal government, other grant sources. And so you see a list there. And so that's a really critical thing. You can keep going back to this plan and showing how there was a need demonstrated, particularly in the needs assessment. The plans must align with HUD national objectives. And so those are their 3 national objectives. For those of you that are familiar with receiving HUD funding sources, you know that this is how you always have to talk about your work. You have to demonstrate how they meet HUD program goals. So we're talking about housing, your living environment, and economic opportunity. And then also how jurisdictions allocate and spend those funds. So the plan has to talk about what are the goals for these 5 years in the plan, and how will you use these funds in different ways. And so it's very technocratic at times. We are hoping that the navigators actually help break down that barrier and take what is a technical plan and make it more of a community plan, if you will. So the consolidated plan must also do other things in our community that really help us advance the goals. So it's an opportunity to listen. You have to do a huge community engagement process, which we did most of the second half of 2019. It's also a way to align local and regional leadership. So you have these issues like housing and economic development that really are impacted and operate on a regional scale. And so it's not just about this jurisdiction, but the jurisdictions that are around it and those that you work in partnership with. You identify priorities that inform these public investments. And then also the other thing to note about this plan is that it is aligned with the regional analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. And this was a really significant thing that the city did in partnership with those communities. It was at first a requirement from HUD, not a requirement in the previous administration, but the jurisdictions moved ahead and did the plan. And now we have this really valuable tool that really speaks to fair housing choice in our community. So just kind of keep that on your radar as well. All right, so the process. This is where we did. If you were with us in January, most of this should be information except for the last 2 or the top 2 bullet points. So we had the public draft posted and we received comments. Those are included actually in the published draft, just as is. Those were incorporated into that. And then we were working on sort of getting that final draft ready, submitted to HUD. Which is sort of a wonky process, but that was done. And then the plan was approved and accepted by HUD in May. And then we've spent the last few months really developing these navigators. So we put the plan together and then we pulled it all apart, for lack of a better description. Maybe that's the best description. And now we're finalizing this for public posting. And then you'll see a summary there of the data collection we've done, and then the public input and community engagement. And note, the deadline for submittal was extended because of COVID through the CARES Act, which sometimes I wish we had done it, but then I do think it turned out better. We were able to incorporate a lot of what was happening live time through 2020 into the plan. Where to find it? Okay, so now I am going to hand this over to Tim.
Yeah, easy to find. I just dropped the link in chat for anyone who wants to look at it. It's going to look different than this because we actually did some updates today. Here, let me just share my screen. Yeah, let's do this. So this is what it looks like. Here's the website, pretty straightforward. It's published online and the PDF is coming soon. If you want to look at this, you just click on published online and it takes you to a Google Doc with all this information in it, and it is opening. This is 254 pages, so it takes a second to happen here. We'll go back to that in a second, but here's some of our input or some of our community input statistics here. And then the navigators are actually all below this. Una is going to talk about this later, but it's all on the home page right now is kind of the big thing you need to know. The plan is now open, and this is what the plan looks like. You can look at a particular section here, any one of these areas, and you can just click on it. You want to go see the overview, the strategic plan overview. It's all bookmarked and set up. So for easy navigation, kind of think of it like a wiki. If you go to the top, you can find the thing that you're looking for and just click on it, and it takes you to the page. So really straightforward. Kind of the goal with creating a lot of these tools, including the navigators, is how do we make sure ease of use and ease of access This stuff is all mobile friendly. I don't know who would want to be reading the con plan on their mobile, but you can, and it's possible. So we made sure that was a thing. So, and then Christy, you can share your screen again then with this, like the slides. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it is. And I don't know, Christy, was there anything else? I think, yeah, just table of contents. That was kind of the gist of what I was sharing. So, so yeah.
For the viewing public, I wanted to just do hard copies, but I got voted down by pretty much all 5 of them.
Hard copies for everybody, right, Mario?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
You guys,
Yeah.
you got stuck in a forest, Mario, or something?
Hey, shh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we, we felt like the electronic access that we could do this time was really kind of an exciting thing. So we were glad to be able to do that. And we will have a PDF version so people can download. That's coming soon. That we have to incorporate some of the appendices and things like that a little bit differently. So we'll be getting that up in the next week or so. But yes, you can see the screen. These are all the sections. The main thing is to know that it follows the format that HUD requires. So you have an executive summary. You'll see on the Navigators, we really encourage people to start with that. It really just provides that snapshot of kind of what each section is and where it's at. The process, how you do it, you have to talk about your needs assessment, and there are 11 sections to that. Market analysis has 10 sections, and the strategic plan has 8. And then we have the appendix, which has a number of additional, like the bibliography, all the other research we looked at, and a summary of all the community engagement that was done. And then some other additional data analysis, that data you can use provided. Looking back at actually previous housing surveys and census data to just sort of see how things were trending. And so you'll notice, I will note in the plan, a lot of the data that you see in those tables comes from HUD directly. It is imported into the plan through their IDIS system. And so it is using mostly 2008 to 2013 ACS, if I'm remembering correctly. It's noted, or CHAS data. It's old data. That's all you need to know. And one of the decisions we made was it was just too extensive, and the most current data available until this most recent census data, which was obviously released in the last month or so. So the next consolidated plan, I think, will have a better snapshot from a data standpoint. But that was one of our challenges with the timing of doing this plan, literally the year before and the year during, while a new census was being taken. So, okay, so the next section, we have a few slides that I'm going to have Una talk about what the plan includes. Sorry, Una, I was looking not at.
Okay, I didn't know that. So the plan includes, first of all, let me say how comprehensive it is. It is 250 pages, and there is an extensive and exhaustive bibliography behind that. Because not only did we go through what HUD data is, we tried to evaluate and look for any other reports, programs, studies that related to the needs assessment, the market analysis. Public engagement was actually the key thing that the team did, and that I headed up with the community groups, the NSP groups, and then our task force. So several times throughout the plan, we went in and talked to the community about where things were at every, I guess, inflection point. We went in to give them a sense of where we were, progress reports, draft times. And so this is how the plan got put together. Scroll down for me, Christy.
Oh, sure.
So the strategic plan is where we start to bring the needs analysis and the market analysis together to look at what the plan should do and how it could inform our work to reach some of the conclusions and target goals and remedies that we want. So that was the other way. All right, let me scroll down some more. I don't have control of the scroller, so that's okay. I don't want it either. All right, so was that enough about the plan? Do you want me to go on to the Navigators? Listen, I'm gonna say a couple of things. If you're on this call today, don't be afraid to collaborate with other people that you see that do similar work, at least around the plan. One of the things that we hope you will do is use this plan to inform your work. You will find we have really put a bunch of data together for you, and we wanted to make sure that community organizations could find we're using the technology, Mario, not just the PDF, but our links are live. And because of that, and because of the work of UEDA, when we have significant data changes, Christy just talked about the census data. As the census data gets updated, we actually now have a way to provide you with the latest census data when it comes out, or to at least let you know that it's there. Because me as a grant writer and also as a grant monitor, these are things that I needed in real time. You know, there's nothing worse than having a deadline and looking for a fact that you know is existing, but you can't support it. So this is what the real thinking was about the way to help potential goal setting, to do measurable goals, to also collaborate and to give our city a better chance at meeting some of the challenges that these programs are all designed to work for. I think that sums it up. Can I go on and talk about the Navigator?
Just a few, I'm gonna go through a few more slides too. These
Okay.
will be really quick. But as Una talked about, you know, the plan is really a great way to start if you are looking for just some language on needs assessment, you know, when it comes to housing issues. You'll see you can navigate that table of contents, but I know as a grant writer, sometimes just trying to find the right wording or a place to start and a data source is really helpful. And so think about it from that perspective. And as Una just talked about, I want to mention, we partner with Data You Can Use also as part of our technical assistance activities. And so they're in the middle of updating the neighborhood strategic planning profiles. And they've been working on that over the last few months with the neighborhood and based organizations. And so that's going to be another great source. And, you know, we, again, kind of thinking around this as live time, like once those are done, we can talk about that with the public and let them know. And then that has like your most recent set of data at the neighborhood level. And so there's a lot of opportunities to kind of keep these conversations going. So real quickly, these are the slides that were really from January that I'm going to just very quickly go through. But, you know, what's in the plan? You'll see an integration of both quantitative and qualitative data. We had focus groups. We talked to people individually. We met with different associations and groups. We did a survey, you know, all of these things. You see them listed here. A lot of it's driven by the structure of the plan itself, but we really tried to be as comprehensive as we could. Special shout outs, you know, I mentioned these last time, but these are really great. And I probably would have to update now. The affordability report by the city is actually being updated annually. So there was one that was released in December of 2020. The policy forum also did another version, most recent report about the affordable housing programs. And now there's another housing strategic document that's been released. So there's just really great information. The Milwaukee indicators that Data You Can Use also is awesome. And they've been integrating some of the health and public health data that we've seen over the last year in particular. So I really encourage you to check those out if you have not. Public input, I just went through quickly. We had the survey, the public meetings, affinity groups, issue-based focus groups. Those are all summarized in the plan in different ways through links. You can also look at the survey results at the website. The number of meetings, visitors, and completed surveys. And then these were the key findings that we summarized in January. Very high level, but really to know that the dynamics of who live in the city has changed. And so, you know, this means that the way these goals are carried out will have to change and take into account. As many of us who work in this field know, this segregation, the legacy of past redlining practices continues to manifest in our community with deep inequalities. And so that really drives a lot of the goals and strategies that we see in the plan, as well as the work of agencies that are implementing these projects into activities. And so that's the thing to always keep in mind, I think, when you look at that data. The other big takeaway is that median household income in the city has fallen over the last 2 decades. And so when you talk about economic opportunity and housing cost burden, that is really a huge thing that we need to account for and think about in this work. The understanding of, now I would say when I wrote this of the intersection of housing and health, that was even before the public health pandemic. You know, I think this is, I repeated it throughout the Navigators, but the safer at home, what does that mean? Well, if your housing isn't safe, if the conditions that you live in aren't, you can't really be safe. And so that was really brought clear to so many of us in the last year, but housing and health has already been talked about over the last few years. The healthcare system and housing systems are working more closer together than ever on addressing these issues. And so that actually brings a lot of opportunity to really address some of these systemic issues. And then the economic impacts of COVID-19 cannot be overstated for groups in our cities, such as low-income residents and communities of color. And we've just seen that again and again over the last year. And so this already exacerbates the challenges that we see here. Okay.
Well, let me just say that Christy makes a good point. If I would ask you, how many of you are surprised? I'm sure those of you who do this work are not. But what we hope that you'll do with this is know these are quantifiable measures now. And we've actually made sure that all of the data that we've compiled gives us those key takeaways. So don't be afraid to quote the plan that these are key takeaways for the city. Go on, Christy.
Okay. So I'm leading up to the navigators now. These two slides that we're going to show next are kind of really going to frame around why they're structured the way they are, but it also speaks to why the plan is structured. The strategies in the consolidated plan are really built around, you have to speak to how you're going to address the needs of specific groups. And so you see that repeated, particularly in the table of contents, like in each section, whether it was the needs analysis, the market analysis, and then strategy sections. So you have to speak about really specific groups and issues. You also have to address the enforcement and education for fair housing in a really, I would say, specific way too. There's their own sections, and then they're threaded throughout some of the other things. And then you have to focus on the impacts of poverty. So if you remember that slide where we had the overarching HUD goals, that really speaks to that. So economic opportunity, housing, neighborhood revitalization, and quality of life. The activities that you see, so these are those are the goals and the strategies. So what do we actually fund or support? What can the plan do? And so they also have to be guided by these three areas: economic opportunity, housing, and neighborhood revitalization and quality of life. And so when you look in the plan itself under goal summaries and things like that, you'll see a table that shows which of these categories that activity or goal falls into. So I think we are now getting next to the navigators.
Sure. All right. So what we did was take that 250 some odd pages and say, how do we make this accessible to people so they can quickly look at them? We wanted to make you a tool. We wanted to summarize each topic. We wanted to let you see how things were organized with HUD without it being bureaucratic. Now, I want you to know this is housing and urban development. So it took not just housing, though that was the top of our goal. We looked at other indicators as it related to the community. In short, the Navigator is a way to immerse you in the community plan without you having to dig around and not understand how one thing relates to another. Move the cursor, please.
Yep.
Okay, so there are 10 navigators. So we took 250 pages and pared it down to 10, maybe 20 with two-sided pages. There's public services. Now, public service is an approved category of HUD, and under public service, you will see community opportunity and employment stability, homelessness services. That was a big one. I want you to really notice that, because a lot of times people think homeless services should be in housing, but it's not. It's public service. Neighborhood strategic planning and crime prevention, that's health and safety. Youth services, okay, anytime. Home ownership is housing services. Housing is environmental, code, health, home repair, and tenant-based. So we wanted to scroll it down for me. We special economic development, and then technical assistance. That's what we're doing, and fair housing enforcement are all considered technical assistance under HUD. And if you're putting in a grant, these are the categories, and this should inform your goal setting and your outcome measures. Correct, Mario? All right, can we go on to look at one?
That's correct.
Yes. So
I just want to, okay.
Okay, I was just going to say, one of the things we're going to leave this up for a minute, but if there's a specific topic you'd like to see, drop it in the chat, and then Tim will bring them up, and then we can kind of show what these look like.
And I'll go over them with you, because I really want you guys to ask for one that you want to see. They're all there. And as he said, they're on the homepage if you want to look at them yourself. But let's do a group study, and somebody asked for one. Is Jessica, somebody asking for one?
Not yet.
Like to hear?
Oh.
Okay.
Well,
Let's see.
Una's choice. Mario?
Okay, yeah, let's go. Let's start with,
Okay, no, we've got two.
all right, somebody just bring one up and I'll go over it with you.
The first request was homelessness.
All right, let's look at homelessness. Was it, okay?
Second was home ownership, so.
Okay, we'll get those two. And that might be all we have time for today, but let's just see. So under homelessness, which is a big deal, look at what we did. So under the goals, these are straight from the HUD goals. Implement a 10-year plan to end homelessness. Benchmark over the 5-year term, assist 20,000 residents with homeless services, provide administrative and technical support for consolidated entry. And we'll talk about that in a second. Provide oversight for CDBG and Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG grant, funding to support the COC. Now in that little box there, if you see, it says administered by the CDBG office as a partnership between the city, Milwaukee County, known as the Continuum of Care. So what that is an intergovernmental partnership to support and eradicate homelessness. Look at those blue sections. If you bring this up online, you can be taken directly to where these things are addressed in the comprehensive plan. You don't have to go looking for them. You don't have to wonder, is this meeting your need? Taking a minute to populate there. But what we did was, again, we had the benefit of technology. Okay. Oh, so there you go.
It drops us right in. Yep.
It drops us right in. So that's how we do it. I kind of wanted to see, can you go to NA10 for me? Oh, I'm glad. Thank you, Amy, for loving it. And hi, Sarah, I see you there. All right, so look at this. We brought up right there is all the data you need. And you know it relates to housing needs. We know that this is taking you to correct information. And this is what I talked about. As things improve, as we do this update, or as Mario wants to say, this data can be updated frequently, and you will know, and we will let you know when things are updated so that you can move around. Let's go back to the page. I want to point out the other categories. And I want to thank Tim for making this look so great. Goals, where to find it in the consolidated plan. Please do take a look at it closer, Today, we hope that you will. Assets and opportunities, because those are the things that we think you can work on together. What's going on in our community that works? We didn't want this to just be a navigator of gloom and doom. We wanted you to be able to see, and we think that it will be there. We'll talk about the kitchens in a second and how you use that. Main strategies, again, the plan has informed us to some of the main strategies, and we just kind of did a short list here. That doesn't mean that this is comprehensive or full of everything. Our main goal was to keep this under 2 or 3 pages. We did not want you to have to reinvent the wheel. Community feedback is there. It is then let me just say this. We wrote down in the margins that everybody should read the full executive summary. It's the same summary for all of the plan, but it is there for you. I think it will help you think through these navigators. You'll understand them better. You'll learn how they relate to one another. Community feedback. This is something that we added because so much of what we had to do was talk to the community and the task force itself. So we wanted you to know that we did a survey, and we didn't quite make my goal of 1,500, but we got very close. And because of that, we grouped and showed you what the community was saying about these topics when we polled them and we took their feedback. So we actually used it as part of our grading about how things were prioritized and how we put them together.
Quick note, Una, just one quick note, all the community survey results. So this is community feedback. It's summarized here. All the results are also published here. So you can go in and see all the questions are up here across the top, and you can see all the data. And so this is everything, right? So if you want to go look at every single question, every single piece is here. So everything is published. So back to you, Una.
Thank you. You couldn't do that on a hard copy, Mario. just want you to know that I hope that you will use this plan. Do not let it just sit. Top needs, again. Thank you, Leo. We are really happy to hear you say that, because someone like you who really knows how this can be used, Leo just said he thinks it's impressive. Thank you. We hope that you will use it and make everyone else share. So listen, top needs. In this section, these are the things that we unearthed as top needs. You may find others based on your work and your knowledge, but we found these top ones to get you started. We are by no means saying that this is complete or exhaustive. It is just a way to help you navigate the plan and make sure that you can get all the data that you need as quickly as you may need it. Again, we had to add a section of COVID related. It was not part of our original design. It was not part of our original planning. And it didn't even always make it to some of our community outreach, but we could not let this pass without showing the results. So whenever we saw a COVID result in one of our studies that informed us, as she said, the relationship between housing and health, we brought in a COVID related comment or some study that did it. Also, we looked at related content, because sometimes topics overlap. They may relate. So what we tried to do was give you a hint of what some of the related content to this particular subject matter or whatever topic you're looking on one of the navigators, but also give you. This way, it may fit for you depending on what end of the activity that you're working on. But we saw that there was something in that particular related content that we thought might help and inform you. So we put it in. We kept it short, but it gives you a place to help you get more familiar with the plan and navigate it. And then we really threw it at you, because the bibliographies are going to be something that you'll have to find in the attachments. You're going to have to do a little bit of work there, but we gave you the page numbers. If you need a deeper dive, we almost called this the deep dive, but then we decided to be educated and just call it a bibliography, because we figured you'd be able to find it better. But these things in bibliography may be shorter, long studies. It's something that if you need more information, this is something you can dig out, you can start to evaluate, but it gives you a context. And we do know that it is now related to the subject matter of the Navigator. So that is it in a shell. It shouldn't take you long. If you play with it and touch it, you will get very familiar with how to use it. Christy and I and Tim have been working with them for just about 4 months. And the structure, we think, is easy to see, easy to understand, and easy to comprehend and use. So use it. Use these navigators. And I would say use a navigator in your subject matter and then compare it against your program work.
I'll just add that as you went through, you see the structure of the navigators follows the plan itself. You have a summary of needs, strategies. These assets and opportunities are really what you might find in the market analysis. And at really high level, like, we took language right from the plan. So it's obviously not the detail, but it's enough to give you a sense of what's there. We don't want to give all of it to you. You got to work for it a little bit. So go to the plan, check it out. If you need to get more into, let's say, homelessness as a good example, there's actually quite a few sections. And so we wanted to link to each of the sections in the plan that were directly related to that topic, but then related context really talks about, like non-homeless special needs. Even though it's non-homeless, there's a lot of discussion around people and populations that might be experiencing homelessness in that section. So, you kind of can see how the different sections work together. One thing I noted on the bibliography, we will hyperlink bibliography in there, so that way you can easily get to that part. It's at the very end of the plan, but it is just literally a list of all the other research. And so those numbers refer to that item. So number 1 means the first item that's on the bibliography list. And so we'll be updating them on the website too.
And let me say that our bibliography had over 75 or 80 different titles. And so that's why she's saying she'll hyperlink it. Those were attachments that we sent to HUD to let them know what informed this plan. I want you to see that that's the kind of work that went into it. Can we just bring up youth services real quick for a second?
Yeah.
Because we talked a little bit. Well,
homelessness is kind of hard. It's complex.
Yeah, homelessness is hard, but someone wanted housing. I want to show them that too. But I just want you to see that if you're doing things with youth in the community, youth was one of the key areas that the community talked about. And that's why I asked for that one to come up, because it polled very high. And we are actually have a goal of 60,000 youth. So I want you to know that the city, through their programming, is paying attention to youth. Now, they don't do it directly. It is working with organizations like yours to make it happen. So I just want you to see, look at our assets and opportunities, a large, diverse youth population compared to other areas in the country, learn and earn summer jobs, affordable trade and technical training and for high yield employees. All sectors in metro area projecting youth are projecting a growth at a minimum of 3.6. Beyond the Bell Initiative and Milwaukee Recreation offer youth and program services. We looked at what we could do and what was informing our work with youth. You don't need me to explain everything, but I would encourage you, look at these goals and don't try and submit without knowing what these goals are for 20, because we're under these goals now. In fact, we've been under them technically since 2020. So
Right.
You need to know them if you're going to be writing for the next round of grants. Someone just said, will there continue grants for food service? Look at your category and make sure you look at the goals for health and safety. You may want to look at 2 or 3 things to see if what you're doing is really meeting the goal. One more I want to look at. Can you bring up one of the economic development ones?
Well, actually, let's do home ownership because that was requested.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I'll just add the goal numbers, say 2020, 24 next to them because they are 5-year goals. So
Right.
those numbers that you see are for 5 years. What the city has to do is basically break that down for each year of the plan through their annual action plans.
Oh,
which
here's the home. Someone requested home ownership. Notice the gray box. If there was some special note, we put it in the gray box. And you can also see how it relates. So the affordable housing program, it works very closely with the housing authority. 1,000 residents are supposed to receive home buyer and home buyer counseling education. 535 affordable units, homeowners and rental units to be completed are sold to eligible persons. That is probably more, that is the goals that the city has set for housing. They have lots of partners in this. You can see in the consolidated plan, the disparity for housing is a needs assessment, 15, overview of housing market analysis. Number of housing units in the city. Can you click on that one? That gives us a graph because this is the latest information that we could find at the time that we were writing that said this is the amount of units in the city of Milwaukee.
I would actually direct people to, I think some of this data we got from DCD that's more updated.
Yeah.
But the city affordability plan is likely your most recent for number of housing units.
Right. But we have it there so you can start there and compare and make sure that you have the right information.
Yep.
And at least it gets you familiarized with what the forms look like as well. Because unless you're used to reading them, there are numbers on the page. All right, you can go back.
We've got a few people on this webinar I know who are very used to looking at census data and the housing, community housing survey.
Absolutely. But that means they're just as wonky as us. I'm talking about the person who doesn't know. All right, the assets of the community, please look at them there. Main strategies that came out of the goals and the objectives and some of the polling from the community. The community feedback is there. Again, you know how to go look at the questions. The top needs are there. What happened to home ownership with COVID and related contact. All of the areas are similar for each one. So you actually get a rhythm. You can look at the Navigator and it'll help you get through. Tim or Christy, you want to add something?
I will just add too for, this is, I guess, our disclaimer, these, the language and the information in these navigators, as well as the con plan by we tried our best to be as comprehensive as we could, but we know we've missed things, whether it's an asset or opportunity, an organization. We really just tried to give examples so people could understand that there's a lot of work in these spaces that occurs in the community. This plan is really one way to drive the public funding that supports it, but there are lots of other efforts. And so, just because there's not a certain group or name there doesn't mean that it's not happening. We can't fit everything, particularly in a 2-pager. So, that's my disclaimer for the day, but just let everyone know we did our best intention to really just give a sense of the extent of the work that happens in our community when it comes to housing and economic opportunity. So by these topic and issue areas. So I think what I'm going to do is just see if there are any other questions or feedback related to this. I might start, put the slide up just for now, but
we have one question just about citing the plan. I would say probably in general, if you're citing the plan, it could be City of Milwaukee 2020, 2024 HUD Consolidated Plan, pretty simple. But if you're writing something like a grant or something, and you're citing very specific data, I think like we mentioned previously, there's a pretty robust bibliography that you could click on and get a very specific citation if you needed that too. So I'll type that into the chat just so you can copy and paste it somewhere. But other than that, I would say just generally the plan, it would be the title of the plan, and then otherwise you can use the bibliography as well.
And our bibliography citation standard is not probably MLA. I'm trying to remember. I was an English major in college, but it's like close enough and it's consistent. So if you were going to go to the source, but some of these papers actually
tailor as you see fit. We'll leave it.
Exactly. Some of these sources have how you should cite it in them to know. But really good.
That's the only question so far. There was a pretty specific question in the chat from Leo. Una kind of addressed that, but
let's go back to that because I don't think I did a good answer.
It might be a Mario answer too, but
right. And because it was for a specific emergency shelter.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question because if you didn't notice, my power went out.
Let me read it. Let me read it for everybody because it says Upstart Kitchen has gotten CDBG funds to provide meals for people. You guys just brought it down. Somebody closed my chat.
Oh,
hold on. I was reading from the. Okay, who can see it? Because you changed the screen on me. Anyway, they were asking, does Upstart still have a way to apply for funds? I think that was the gist of the question. And I would say that doesn't change, but you need to look at the goals to see how they would relate to what you're doing. I would say, where would I say that might be found in the plan? Under homeless.
Well, I don't think for what they did wouldn't have been under homelessness. It really did fit under something that would be considered COVID-19 related. So obviously without it being in the plan, the COVID issue being in the plan, we would have had to do some type of amendment in order to do that type of activity. So it's here. So as long as we're still dealing with COVID, which will be a while, it seems like, it still would be an eligible activity under that.
Right. To Mario's explanation.
Thank you, Mario.
These kinds of activities that you saw as a result of, and were funded largely through CARES Act funds, but also aligned with the comp plan. Because we were still working on this in 2020, we were able to basically in every section say something about COVID-19 and how it was impacting that specific issue or group or whatever. And the reason we did that was much like we put, there's now a section on what they call hazard mitigation, but it's really about the impacts of climate change, like where we can put information about flooding and severe weather, which leads to maybe getting support through FEMA. That's our best example. But if it's in your consolidated plan, that provides support for other federal government departments to recognize that you have identified that as a need in your community. So the consolidated plan is a really great source document for city and county jurisdictions to show that those are needs in their community.
And thank you, Mario.
And our director, and Steve Mahan, has done a really good job. Sometimes we sort of juggle this around. So we might temporarily have something under CDBG because it's been eligible, but we've worked with FEMA on, on like basically reimbursing those funds and then moving it over to some FEMA funds, depending on what the issue was, or it may be some of the other funding sources that have come down that have been available to the city. So we've had to juggle things around and try to put things in the best place they can be. So even if it's maybe eligible under CDBG because of COVID or some other reason, we're trying to use the best source available at the time to actually get it funded, but we may supplant it with something different that makes more sense.
Mhm.
Yes, you want to read Sarah's question?
Yes. Sorry, my computer. Is there anything in particular in the plan that we're enthusiastic about outside of the structure that CDBG put in place in terms of funds?
I'll just add, so the thing that was really interesting to me that is mentioned in the plan, but it's probably not articulated as strongly as it could be because the goals have to align with the HUD format, if you will. But one of the things we heard a lot in our community feedback process is just there's a huge amount of interest. And I mean, we've seen this in our UEDA network work. Oh, that was redundant. That people are very interested in alternative housing models, both from a design perspective. So everything from like, we love our old houses, our huge big old houses, but they're hard to keep up. Our housing stock is old. So what point, and this is from housing groups that are doing rehab, right, for many years, where they just say, we wonder if we should be doing this differently. From neighborhood people that have said, we would like to see different housing stock, even though it doesn't go with what's here now, but the way that people are living and the families we have in our neighborhood. And then alternative ownership structures. And so I think the city has actually really responded already to that. You see that in DCD and some of the investments that they are making through the TIF funds. It's very top of mind for the planners, I think, but that's stuff that I think eventually you will see, because if they're funding the organizations that are implementing or partners in that, you will see those ideas. But I think housing is just a huge issue that's very top of mind, and people are really constantly rethinking what we should be doing and how we should be responding. And so I think the plan provides a good structure. I think the next consolidated plan might speak a little differently to some of those things, because maybe by that point there will be like activity that could translate to that. So I don't know if Yuna or Mario or Tim, you'd want to add anything.
Well,
So-
I will. Go ahead, Mario.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't really look at, and I understand the sort of the question, I think, about the sort of excitement around the plan, but I think the excitement around the plan for me, and the way I would even look at it, is really about the engagement and the opportunity to get people to be able to use it, understand it, and things like that. So the context of the plan is never going to be like, hey, we did this exciting thing on housing. It's really about, or for me, it's about how do we bring people together to talk about those things, how can the plan support it, especially about getting people involved and people engaged. I mean, that's how I see it. It's really not maybe the caper or the action plan could speak to things like that more specifically, but the comp plan is much more broader and about bringing people together and being able to give them the space to operate on those ideas.
Right. Yuna, did you want to add anything?
No, I was going to say what makes it exciting for me is that we saw both opportunities and threats. Number one, we saw that we need to not operate in such silos in terms of who's working on what issues. And we thought that was the real reason for starting to look at the Navigator, was to see how each plan and each group can relate, overlap, or collaborate with each other. Leo just asked, how does this relate to the plan from, I think, the housing plan from DCD? And I'm going to say we use similar data. We looked at the goals. They overlap for HUD. So that's one way. I think what we hope is in the next year or so, you'll send us some information as to how it collaborates and how it relates to each other's plan, because they are now able to kind of be transparent to each other. That's the one way that I looked at it. Somebody
I'll
else can,
just
yeah.
add the plan that Leo's referring to is the one that just came out last week, actually,
Mhm.
by CDA. We actually shared this draft with that group. So it was, I think the con plan rather probably informed that plan because of all the data and the community feedback that we had done with residents in particular. So just know that they're aligned. The goals in the con plan are not different, I would say, than the goals in the CDA strategy. In fact, what they inform each other, if you will. And so I feel like whether it's it's an amendment or the annual action plans, you can go look to that strategic plan and then talk about how that might be informing the work of the city. So it's an alignment. And Mario, there's a question also about if the city will have more funding in the next program year because of the American Rescue Plan Act.
I don't follow the question. He said, will we have more funding because of the American Rescue Plan?
Yeah, I think so. think
So our office specifically doesn't oversee the American Rescue Plan as far as when we have some input with the administration on activities, so we'd be working with them on what we see from our groups or people who are requesting funding and how does that fit sort of in the whole pie, so to speak. But we don't have the sort of the direct oversight to do recommendations out of our office for it. I mean, I don't know if Steve's still on the call, but he may be able to better answer that.
I will just say, really, the short, big answer is yes, there will be more money in the next program year because they're coming from different sources. So there's allocations through the American Rescue Plan Act that went to HUD and then home. As Mario just alluded, there's money that is coming through, CDBG, and then there's other money that goes directly to the city I think it's Department of Administration. But they're working with the Common Council. And so that is still unfolding. But in the short answer is yes, there's more federal resources that would generally support the goals in this plan. So.
I'm sorry, I just misunderstood the question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's complex. It's like, yes, there's money. It's just that how it's coming is still sort of being figured out. For example, home dollars, HOME dollars. I think, did they just release guidance, Mario? I want to say I saw that in my email like 2 days ago, maybe.
They did
Yeah.
release the new guidance on those.
Yeah, so that is coming from HUD. That's in a separate track. And then, the rent assistance, emergency rent assistance dollars, those are coming from Treasury. They go directly to jurisdictions, but that's a good example of additional federal resources to the rescue plan that is not part of the usual HUD funding stream. So, okay.
That's it for all the
Well,
questions. So,
I think that's all the questions too. Yeah. Is there a Q&A one? Nope. Okay.
Nope.
I'm going to go to the next slide, which is thank you for joining us today. We are right at 1 o'clock. We had slotted an hour. We knew we had a lot to get through because it's fairly dense. But we will do we'll share the recording and the slides from this webinar. We'll put them on the website. And just know that that website will be updating in the next week in particular. But all of the navigators are there and the draft or the final sort of plan. I'm still adding a few things in, but I would say it'll always be there. So as well as at CDGA, we're going to give them the final documents so they can put it on their website too. Anything else you want to add, Una, Tim?
Yeah, I don't know that we answered Leo's question about what department in city government is managing the American Rescue Funds. If it's not CDBG, is it CDA? Is it the mayor's office? Where is that plan being managed out of? Did you know, Mario?
Yeah, well, the mayor has you can go to the mayor's actual homepage. So it's coming directly from the administration and working directly with the council.
Got it. I just want to make sure we covered that question because I'm sure everyone is wondering because they always want to dump it on block grant, but
oh, it's okay. I mean,
yes.
Listen, $400 million. I'm sorry, I don't even have that in. I'm not ready for that.
No, they have enough. I mean, the CARES Act money, for people who may not know, I mean, that was like 3 times the amount of what normally comes in a program year for CDBG and home. And so I felt bad for my colleagues over in CDGA last year. Every time I talked to them, I was like, I hope they're okay.
Well,
This
sure, Jess.
is Jessica. I just wanted to add really quickly. So like Christy said, we'll send out, we'll send out a recap after this, but, and we'll send out a link to the website and all of the navigators in our newsletter and all of that. But please, when we do send it out, feel free to forward it to people in your networks, even with the caveat message. You might not be able to dive into this right now, but file it for later type of a thing so that people have it handy to look at and look through in the future, because it is a really great tool and there's a lot of information in there that I know that UEDA members come to us for and ask for, throughout the year, but there is info right there ready for them. So pass it along, make sure that folks that are aware of this. We have 22 people on here today. Obviously, we hope that everybody that works at a nonprofit organization in the sector is aware of the information. So share it when you get it, please.
Yeah, that's why we created the website, conplanmke.org. Much easier to remember than city.milwaukee.gov. whatever. So, so look for us. And if you're in our mailing list, then you likely are if you sign up for this webinar. So you will get updates from us periodically too. And, feel free to submit information, comments, that kind of a thing. We're always glad to have that open feedback process. So I think.
Thanks, everybody. I hope this was helpful for you. Use the Navigators.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody, but my workmate is being unruly right now. So.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.